All right, we're going to begin our session today. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll start a bit slowly so that our registrants who are still making their way into the session can log in and we can begin. As you may have just heard, this session will be recorded, so if you're not able to join us for the entire session, you'll be able to find the recording. We'll post it on our website and we'll send you that link so you can review it at your leisure after the session is over. So welcome everyone. We are so happy to have you with us today to talk about the University of Chicago summer session and our programs for 2021. A quick primer on how things will work today. This is a Zoom webinar. I think after a year of doing this, many of you are very familiar with this format. But because we have a large population of folks out there in the webinar joining us, we've limited the interactive features today. But what we do have functional is the QA feature. So if you find your activity bar, there's a little button called Q&A. So you can post questions during the session there and our staff will help answer them for you. I will say that there are a lot of you and only a few of us. So there may be some questions that you ask that are actually covered later in the presentation. So we might wait to answer those questions so that you can get your answer there. So our agenda for today, we're going to cover a few things. We're going to talk about our experience last summer as the entire world moved to remote learning. There's a lot that we learned about how to run fantastic programs online for our students, and we'll talk a little bit about what we learned. We'll go over the basics for our 2021 programs. We'll hear about the specific academic offerings we have for our pre-college students this summer. We'll hear about how we engage our community online in effective ways, and we'll also talk about our application process. So just to emphasize, we know that there are also undergraduates who are interested in summer session programs. This session today will only discuss pre-college programs. So a few quick introductions. So I am Christine Parker. I am Executive Director of Summer Session and oversee all of our undergraduate and pre-college programs. You'll also hear from Stephanie Friedman, our Director of Academic Programs. Stephanie oversees all of our curriculum development and instructional staff across all of our programs. And lastly, you'll hear from Jim Wessel, our Community Director. So renamed, he formerly known as our Residential Director, and as we've shifted to remote instruction, Jim has taken the lead in leading our online community. There are two other folks that are joining us today, Jenna Goldberg and Kate Graham. They are staffing the QA queue for you. If any of you have ever called or emailed our office and asked questions, you've already been in touch with both Jenna and Kate. So they are here to help you with your questions. All right, let's get started and talk a little bit about what we learned last summer. As you all experienced, and we all experienced together, roughly in about April of last year, we made the decision to shift all of our residential programs to remote instruction. And we really did learn quite a lot from that experience. I think everybody really did, about how do we take what we do in the classroom and bring it to a remote environment in an effective way. And so we polled our students, we polled our instructors, and we asked a lot of really good questions to understand what really worked. And what we saw from all that feedback, all of our attendee surveys, is that well-designed courses that actively engage students are as effective in terms of student learning and satisfaction. And when we look at our data from our 2019 residential courses and our 2020 remote courses, the satisfaction that students had in their academic experience was the same. So we brought what we are very proud of at the University of Chicago is a very actively engaged classroom environment, and we're very successful bringing that into the remote space. We also recognize that individual student support is really essential for success. So there's certainly a sense that being online can feel very isolating and can feel like you're on your own, and especially when you're being challenged academically, that can be a tough situation to be in. But providing that individual student support makes students feel much better about the experience. They don't feel so alone. And the student social engagement was still quite strong within the class cohort. So in a residential environment, we love the fact that students can meet others from around the world and across the country who aren't necessarily in their class and engage with those students in a social way. here in the remote environment, we're still able to have strong engagement among students, but it's just in this smaller class cohort. But those bonds were still created and were really quite strong. So these are the things that we felt were the most successful and that students definitely highlighted as the strongest parts of their experience. So as we segue now into 2021, how are we sort of moving forward given what we've learned? Well, all of our pre-college programs will again be delivered via remote instruction, and we will not be offering any residential or commuter options this summer again. And you know, the reasons for these things are somewhat obvious, but I'll still outline them a little bit. Accessibility is really important, and we hope that we are coming down off the tail end of the COVID outbreak, but the availability of vaccines and travel restrictions and many other factors complicate the accessibility of our programs to be held in person. So we are excited to be able to offer our programs to students around the world and across the country. And we found even last year that even more students were able to access our programs because they were offered remotely, which we were really excited about. And even in the future, we're very serious about offering some remote instruction courses, even in the post-COVID era, to make sure that students who are interested in our programs but are not able to travel to Chicago can experience them. We also thought a lot about the quality of the experience that students might have if they come to campus. We've had extremely effective COVID protocols put into place on the University of Chicago campus, and we've kept our numbers of COVID cases down to extremely low levels. But those protocols don't work for short-term programs like ours. And for students to come all this way and then have to be isolated for 2 weeks, not a great experience. So we wanted to be really realistic about all of those protocols in place would really affect the experience that we want students to have. And we've also, in talking with our peers who run pre-college programs at college and universities around the country, more than mostly everyone is also making this move to remote instruction. We know some of our peers are still hoping to offer some in-person programs for some of their commuter students, but as we know, these things are always pending the COVID outbreak and when it leaves. And lastly, we just wanted to come out very strongly to say, we know that COVID can create a lot of uncertainty in our lives, and to say we're going to do remote things and we're going to do them well, and we want you to be able to plan your summers so that there's less uncertainty across the board, and we can move forward with a little bit more confidence. So when we thought about going back to last year and making the shift from a residential program to remote instruction, there was a lot of anxiety out there. We run residential programs, and we know what those student outcomes are from that experience, and thought about how will that experience change for our students in a remote environment. So we all take some time to articulate what it was about our residential program specifically that we felt provided students the takeaways, those valuable takeaways. And we realized that in the end, we're able to meet the same student outcomes, the same goals for students, even if they look a little bit different. So the 5 things that we feel very strongly about, that we feel our programs do, is it allows students to engage intellectually with a diverse group of peers. And that's certainly still the case in an online environment, and sometimes even more so with a greater accessibility. We want students to develop independence and self-management in a college environment. So we will still require you to manage your time and follow the requirements of the courses and manage your time well with everything else you're doing to make sure you can be successful in the course. You'll be contributing actively to the creation of community online, that you will learn about admissions and campus culture. We'll talk a little bit about that. And you'll be able to benefit from mentorship by current UChicago students. So again, these things look a little different, but they're all core essential pieces of our programs as we move into this summer. So what are those programs that we'll be offering this summer? As was the case last year, there are several programs, including our Stones and Bones Paleontology program and our Research in the Biological Sciences lab course, which we're not able to offer, unfortunately, this year because of the hands-on components and trips to Wyoming that are not possible now. The programs that we will be moving forward and offering this year include our immersion program. So this is our core program that we run for our pre-college students. These are 3-week intensive deep dive courses offered for credit, and they're offered for current 9th through 11th graders. We have 2 3-week sessions, one that starts at the end of June and one that starts in mid-July. And we've added 9 new courses this year, so we have even more offerings for students in our immersion courses this year. For current 11th and 12th graders, we have our summer college program. And this is a program that allows high school students to enroll side by side with UChicago undergraduate students in 3 or 5 week undergraduate courses that are pulled from the college curriculum. These are offered across multiple sessions and really give older students an even deeper sense of what does a classroom environment look like and what does a UChicago classroom feel like. And lastly, we have our Summer Language Institute. And this is a program that actually serves a very wide range of students. But these are courses, 6 to 8 week intensive courses that provide the equivalent of a full year's language instruction for credit. And these are open to current 11th and 12th graders. So let's say you wanted to get a head start on learning introductory Korean or introductory Arabic or introductory French. These are courses that would let you jump ahead, and maybe then as you think about when you move on to college or university, you can jump into a more intermediate level course right away and get even further with your language learning. So what has remained the same is that all of our pre-college offerings remain for credit. So students will get a transcript from the University of Chicago and a quality letter grade for those courses. And the programs are now priced. Typically, our program fee includes our residential costs as well as our tuition. This year, everything is being charged the same as we charge for our commuter students for immersion, summer college, and summer language institute. So those tuition-only numbers are as follows. So one of the biggest questions that we often get from folks is about financial aid. So we want to make it clear that we do have need-based financial aid available for all of these programs for both domestic and international students. And so when you apply to the program, that you can opt in to submit a financial aid application and apply for that. Most of these financial aid packages are partial aid, but again, we can provide more information. You can always contact us if you have questions about our financial aid offerings. Now, the last set of programs that we offer, we have a cohort of special scholarship programs. And these are offered in the first half of the summer only. And they do have some additional application requirements, but they have no application fee. And for students selected to participate in these scholarship programs, they are completely tuition free. So each of the programs has a specific set of eligibility requirements. What they do all have in common is that they're all for current 11th grade students. So these programs include our Emerging Rural Leaders, which is for students from rural parts of the United States, the Neubauer Family Adelante Summer Scholars, which is for students attending high school in the US who are actively engaged in Hispanic and Latinx communities. The Latin American Phoenix Scholars, which is for students attending high school in Central or South America. The United World College Global Academy. This is for students who attend any of the United World College schools around the world. And our Woodson Summer Scholars Program for students here in the United States who identify as Black or African American. So the information about our scholarship programs is available on our website. If you go to prospective students, there's a special section for scholarship programs that gives you much more detailed information about these programs. All right, so that's our quick rundown of our plans for the future. So I'm going to turn over the reins now to Stephanie Friedman, who will tell you a little bit more about the academics here at the University of Chicago. Stephanie.
Thanks, Christine. Good morning, everyone from cold and snowy Chicago. I hope wherever you are warm and well. So we're going to talk a little bit about the academic side of things. Here we go. Okay. So like most universities, we have a motto, and our motto is in Latin, as many university mottos are. Here at the University of Chicago, our motto is Crescat Scientia Vita Excolator, which translates to let knowledge grow and life be enriched. So the other way we like to, the current pithy way that we talk about that is inquiry and impact. So we like to be at the forefront of both of those things here at the University of Chicago, sort of creating knowledge, pressing against the frontiers of what is known or what is assumed to be true, and doing so in a way that has the greatest impact on the world, on the lives that we live, for the benefit of all. And so to do that, the teaching and learning that we do here is rigorous, engaged, and groundbreaking, and our pre-college programs are no exception. So, as Christine was saying earlier, we have made a move last summer and will continue to this summer, move to remote instruction. But our expectations for you, just like your expectations for yourselves and for us, remain high. So we'll be building on the successful transition that we made back in 2020. And the instructors found last summer that students were equally engaged, could cover the same amount of material and sometimes even more in their courses than they did when they taught them in person. And the students told us, both in surveys and just in our conversations with them, that they still felt like they were part of our community, our academic community here at the university, that they still felt they were having a uniquely UChicago experience, that they felt surrounded by students and teachers who cared about what they were doing, and that they didn't feel some of those frustrations that I know. I mean, my own daughter felt when her high school classes went remote and lots of people had their cameras off and people didn't really seem to care and people were disengaged. That was not the case here. As you can see in this image here, everybody's got their cameras on and is looking bright-eyed and ready to go. This was just a screen capture from one of our psychology courses, Psychology of Learning, last summer. And this is in part because the other students like you are people who are really passionate about learning, but also because the people who will be teaching you, our faculty and lecturers and TAs who will be teaching you, are really passionate about making sure that you remain engaged, that their teaching is active and creative, that they are also able to be flexible and responsive to whatever happens to be going on, both in your particular circumstances, but also in these strange and unusual times in which we find ourselves. And last but not least, and I know this is a concern for a lot of you, that they're able to accommodate students who live in different time zones, because we realize that we have people from across the US and around the world in each of our classes. So this being the case, please do bear in mind that just because you're not physically here with us in Chicago does not mean that this is only a part-time commitment, that remote learning is, the way that we do it here at least, is still very engaged, very rigorous, and you'll be spending the same amount of time with your coursework that you would if you were here on campus with us. If you were in the immersion program or the SLI program, your courses should be the only activity during those course dates, meaning don't double book yourself. We had some students last year who thought, oh, I don't have to physically be on campus. I can do one pre-college program here and another pre-college program there at the same time. Doesn't work. Those people very quickly found they were overwhelmed. You will still be expected to spend at least 6 hours a day on your various course requirements, sometimes more, depending on if you have a big project due, also depending on yourself. You know, how fast can you read that Kant or Weber or whatever it is that you have to read? How fast can you write that paper? How quickly can you do that problem set? Really depends, right? But you figure you'll be doing at least that. And your instructors will be assuming that they have full primary claim on your attention, just as you would if you were here on campus. So note also that your attendance in class is required and participation will be part of your grade. These are graded for credit courses and participation will be a factor there. If you're in the summer college program, meaning you're taking one of our undergrad courses, you can take just one class or two. Be aware there that if you're taking two, because these are intensive, they're taking a 10-week course and boiling it down to 3 weeks long or 5 weeks long instead of 10 weeks long, 2 courses is the equivalent of a full undergraduate course load of taking 4 courses instead of 2. So again, important things to bear in mind. So, accommodating different time zones. For those of you who are not here in Chicago or not in the central US time zone, you might be concerned, well, how will you be able to accommodate me? And there's various ways that we can do that. In our immersion programs, for example, the instructors work to, whenever possible, schedule any all-class synchronous sessions, synchronous meaning times when everyone's online together, such as we are in this webinar right now. They try to schedule those so that they can accommodate different time zones, just like we tried to schedule this webinar at a time that people in different time zones could attend. But this means that you'll have to be a little accommodating yourself, that class might be happening a little earlier in the morning or a little later in the day than you might like, but it shouldn't be happening in the middle of the night for you. We do try to avoid that. And then if there are smaller groups, that we try to arrange those by people who are in proximate time zones. A lot of our immersion courses have smaller groups where people get together and work on group projects. So those will be arranged by people who are in similar time zones to you, so that at times when you're together, not everyone in class, but smaller groups, that you're able to figure out a time that works for you all, that's comfortable for you. Another thing is, because the exams and quizzes and assignments are all done online, the quiz or test can be released at a time or done at a time that works for you in your time zone. And so in that way, being online is actually a help as far as that's concerned. So a lot of our students and parents are interested about credit, about earning university or college credit. And so I want to talk a little bit about that because we get lots of questions about it. So all of the courses open to our pre-college students are graded, as I said before, meaning you receive an A through F quality grade, as we call it. And all of even the immersion courses that are only open to pre-college students, they are taught at the undergraduate level and therefore have undergraduate course numbers. They all carry 100 units of credit, which is how we compute credit here at the University of Chicago. The SLI intensive courses carry 300 units of credit. Those are 6 to 8 week courses, which are the equivalent of 3 courses of a year's worth, a 3-quarter sequence of a language. So say you're doing Chinese 101, 102, and 103, all in the span of 8 weeks. So those carry 300 units of credit. And our 100 units of credit is, if you were at a semester school, would compute to be about 3.3 semester credit hours. Little something we want to warn you about with credit though, because a lot of people are understandably interested in potentially transferring those credits somewhere else. You should always be aware that whether a course will be transferred and what it would count as is at the discretion of that other college or university. We have no say over that here at the University of Chicago. We can provide you with a transcript that you can show to that other college or university, and we can say, look, here, this person took, biology, this course number, and it had this number of credits, and they got this grade in it. But what that other college or university does with that credit is solely at their discretion. It's totally up to them. You should always take a look at any school that you're going to. Take a look at their transfer policies. Some of them won't even take transfer credits from something that you took before you matriculated there, meaning before you became a student in their degree program there. So you really have to be careful about that. All that being said, do remember that as important as credit is for some people, and I understand that certainly, no matter what happens or what the other college or university might decide to do with that credit, the one thing that they can't take away from you is the experience that you had in it, the kinds of things that Christine was talking about earlier, the way that you are not just road testing us as a university, but you're road testing yourself as a potential undergraduate student, that you are proving to yourself and to anyone who looks at that transcript that you can undertake a challenging, rigorous academic UChicago experience, and you can succeed, that you learn how to manage your time, that you learn how to make that transition to doing college level reading, college level writing, participating in college level discussions, problem sets, tests, other activities, analysis of various kinds. All of that is stuff that you can do and you know how to do. And you can walk away knowing that you have that under your belt. And that will stand you in good stead no matter where you go and what else happens with you. So that's all I have to say about academics. And now I'm going to turn things over to Jim Wessel, who's going to talk about university engagement.
Great, thank you, Stephanie. So I'm just going to speak for just a couple of moments about what our community life staff looks like. Let me go forward. One moment. I went too far. So I want to talk a little bit about our community life staff, and we call them community mentors. And so what we do is we have staff who are either on campus or anywhere throughout the world who are connecting students to the larger UChicago campus community. And so we know there's many resources on campus that we can share. Of course, we would love to have host students on campus, but because that's not possible for 2021, we use technology to connect students to all those resources. Our staff share guidance, advice, and resources. So they are really a point person for summer session students to make it more likely that they're successful in their courses and are getting the full UChicago experience. So we make sure that students acclimate to the academic environment. If it's a fast-paced or more rigorous environment than students are used to, we are sort of guides for them to play the role of somebody who is familiar with the rigorous academics of UChicago and can help students get used to that. We do make sure that students make social connections with peers. So as our staff, as our community mentors, get to know students all throughout the program, they can make connections with folks and make sure that if there's shared interests or something that somebody can connect with somebody else on, our staff can help to make that happen. And we have students participate in social events. And so these social events may happen before class time, after class time. We really tailor it to what is most timely for our students. Most of our community mentors are current UChicago undergrads, and some of them are recent alumni as well. Many have served as residential assistants in our in-person programs in previous years, or are alumni of our high school programs. The community mentors, they may live anywhere around the world. They could be near Chicago. They could be doing their job remotely from all over the world. And also we make sure that we have a staff that's really representative of the UChicago campus, many different majors. And so if students are looking to connect with a pre-med major, with an econ major, with somebody whose most of their classes are in the sciences, somebody whose most of their classes are in the arts, the community mentors, we have a variety of staff members who can connect with students and to play that mentorship role. A little bit more detail about community mentors. They do connect with students before programs begin, and we have an online platform that we invite students to join. So they'll log in, they'll connect with community mentors even before class starts. And it's a way not only to connect with our staff, but to connect with other students. We facilitate small group and individual meetings. So students will be grouped into groups called houses, just like we do in our residential programs. So it'll be a cohort of students that will connect with each other, but our community mentors also connect with students in individual meetings. So one student is likely to meet with 2 community mentors early on in their program to answer questions, get a sense of how we can help and how we can serve. Our community mentors are former college applicants. And so they can answer many questions that current high school and prep school students have about the college application process. Our community mentors share their individual academic journeys, how they chose a major, how they chose a first major and changed to a different major. There's lots of variation there and lots of stories to tell. And their leadership experiences. We are very lucky that among community mentors, with many of them being former summer session students, they have taken great leadership opportunities on campus, and we want to share that with students as well. It's part of the whole breadth of being a student is not only the work in the classroom, but all those connections you make outside. I mentioned that our staff will facilitate social and educational activities, and we tailor those events to what students are looking for. Some students want to have a further conversation about academics and choosing a major. And some students, we found students last summer who really wanted to learn about baking or cooking. And so our staff in a New York City apartment took them through baking a cake. Or we would do a panel discussion about either the academic areas or the things on campus that they find most amazing. So we really provide a variety of activities for students. And as I mentioned, some are before scheduled class time, some are after scheduled class time. It really depends on where the student lives, what's most convenient for them, and we tailor our programming to what students are looking for. Just a few more things to share about additional programming that happens on campus during the summer, happens virtually during the summer. Through the Office of Admissions, there will be a variety of workshops that summer session students will be able to participate in. Everything from the college applications process writ large to application essays. All the questions that students would have, there will be workshops that will help to address those. Summer virtual tours of campus. So our community mentors will give a sense of what it's like to be on campus and do some virtual tours, but admissions as well does full-scale tours of campus to give you a sense of what it would like to be a student in person in a future year. And all those details will be shared at collegeadmissions.uchicago.edu. Additional workshops that happen during the summer include health and wellness. We had some remote yoga, some other physical activity programs. If students want to move during remote learning, we're happy to help with that. Study skills workshops. So as I mentioned, community mentors help with that academic transition to summer session. And so we'll provide additional resources for students to become more efficient and to engage even better with their coursework. And student leadership. So last summer, we were able to work with partner offices on campus to do programs and events virtually to get summer session students thinking about being engaged on campus and all the learning that can happen outside the classroom. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and pass it back to Christine. Thank you.
All right, great. Thank you, Jim and Stephanie. So we'll now move into our last section about talking about applying to summer session. I realize I don't know who we're talking to today, so I'm going to try experimenting with our poll today. I'm going to launch a poll. I'd like everyone who's an attendee today just to tell us who you are. It's always good for us to know who we're talking to. Awesome. Thank you so much for such quick responses. And it looks like we have lots and lots of high school students out there. So we're so glad to see you taking control of your educational experience. That's always really nice. Well done, 85%. Okay, and we have 3 education professionals. Hello to you as well. Happy School Counselor Week. I think we just finished that. All right, so let's move on and talk about our application. So applying to summer session, basic steps, and there's a whole section of our website that has all the information you need about how to apply to our different programs and courses. But the basics are that students may apply for up to 3 courses across different programs. So you will, when you fill out that application, you'll not just select up to 3 courses, but you rank them in order of your interests. So if you are interested in 3 different bioscience courses, you put those in order, and then our application reviewers will review your application and consider you for placement in those courses in order of your preferences. And as we move further into the admission season, some of those courses might start filling up. And so folks who apply earlier might have sort of first dibs on courses where there's open seats. Later on, once courses start to fill, there might be some fewer options, and you might find yourself an admitted student perhaps in a second or third choice. So only put courses that you really are interested in attending on that list, and just know that as space becomes more limited, that your preferences will be taken into consideration sort of in a different way. So our application deadlines for Immersion, Summer College, and Summer Language Institute, we passed our priority deadline, which was in January, but our upcoming regular deadline, which is when the majority of our students apply, is February 24th. We also have an additional extended deadline, March 31st. And again, that's not late or anything. That's just if you need a little bit more time to make decisions about what you want to do this summer, plenty of space still be available in many courses for the extended round. And then after March 31st, we will accept applications on a rolling basis until the programs are full. And if there's one silver lining to the remote instruction model, is that because we're not dealing with housing contracts and people aren't dealing with travel plans and everything else, we were able to actually extend our application season even later last year than we usually do. So we will accept applications through about mid-May. But again, many courses will be filled by then. So we always encourage you to apply as early as you're ready to make that decision. And oh, I'm sorry. I will say that there is a separate deadline for scholarship programs. So I believe that is, gosh, I'm not really sure what that date is. I'm so sorry. That was supposed to be on the slide. But let's see. Thank you, Jenna. So March 1st. So for the scholarship programs that we spoke about, March 1st is the single deadline for those programs. Thank you, Jenna. So what are the components of an application? So there are required pieces that everyone will have to submit. That is a completed online application through our website, and that will include your course preferences. You have to select at least one. We have supplement essays that ask you questions about your interest in our programs and why you want to take the courses that you're interested in. We need a most recent transcript or grade report. This does not need to be an official one coming from your school. You can upload a scan of an unofficial transcript, that's fine. There's also a separate writing sample, and also at least one letter of recommendation received by our office from a teacher at your school. As always, we recommend that if you are applying for a writing intensive course, you should talk to your English teacher or someone else who can speak very specifically to your skills in writing. Or if you're interested in that math course, go to your math teacher. So the letter of recommendation should really speak to your skill set in those particular subject areas. And if you're applying to a math course and an English course, then you can always submit more than one letter of recommendation. It makes your application stronger. There will be a parent confirmation that's required also as part of that application, just to make sure that your parents know that you're applying to this program. And then there's also an application fee. But note again, for the scholarship programs, those fees are waived automatically. So depending on your situation, there might be some additional things that you need to submit as part of your application. So for some of our academic offerings in certain subject areas, there might be some additional questions that we ask you about your background, your subject background in these areas. So it can be challenging, for example, to know which mathematical concepts or computer science concepts that you're familiar with just based on the transcript. So if you apply to some of these kinds of courses, we will ask you some additional questions about which concepts you're familiar with, and it'll give us additional information to help place you in a course. As mentioned, we do have a financial aid application. It's an optional part of our overall application. So if we do recommend that if you are at all interested, or even if you're not, apply to financial aid, do not wait until after you've been admitted to apply for aid. The aid is limited, and so if you don't apply for it as part of the application process and you wait until much later, the funding may be gone. So please make sure that if you are at all thinking you might need financial aid, please fill out that application as part of your overall program application. And lastly, for students who attend non-English language speaking high schools outside of the US, we do require international applicants to provide some sort of English proficiency test scores. We know that many testing programs have been put on hiatus this last year, and so there may be limited ability for you to have gotten, say, into a TOEFL test or others. So please contact our office if you have questions about the test requirement for international students. And there's a lot more information on our website, but you can always ask our office individual questions as well. We have some alternative testing available that we can provide for students who have no other sort of options where they are. All right. So that's it for sort of peer information, but we wanted to make sure that we leave you with a few final thoughts to take home with you. We want to reiterate, because it's so important to us, that we remain 100% committed to meeting the same goals and student learning outcomes for our programs. We know the methods look different. They'll be constantly changing and really adapting as we move forward into this coming summer. But these are things that are very important for us, and we continue to make sure that we hold fast to them so that our student experience is as best as it can be. And we're really hopeful. I mean, it's still a question, of course, how COVID will come down off this COVID mesa that we're on. But we'd like to say that if we are able at a certain point, both the city of Chicago and the state of Illinois, as well as campus, once we start allowing groups of visitors to come back to campus at a certain point, once this becomes available, we will absolutely let all participants in our summer programs know if we're able to do any kind of even like one-day event or something on campus before the academic year, we will try to do so, and we'll absolutely let those students who participate in our programs know if that does become available so that you can come and see campus for yourself. So if you have any additional questions, anything we didn't cover today or any very specific questions about your application, don't hesitate to email us at summersession@uchicago.edu. Or again, we have lots of resources, detailed resources on our website available at any time. So that's the end of our presentation today. Thank you so much. These are pictures of happy families from our summer in 2019. We look forward to another great summer in 2021, hoping to welcome students and families back to campus in 2022. So thank you so much again for your attention and time. Stay safe, everyone, and have a great day.